Welcome to the Extraordinary Purpose Podcast, where we explore some of the truly difficult questions and challenges that parents and their families face every day. Whether it's the sometimes painful process of parenting teens and young adults, navigating relationships with your partner and children, or you discovering your purpose in relationship with yourself, we will bring heartfelt and vulnerable conversations to the table to support and empower you. Our mission is to help you create a lifestyle full of love, passion, adventure, and influence. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Extraordinary Purpose Podcast. We're so excited to have you here today with us. My name is Chris.
I'm Erin. How's everyone doing today?
Hope everybody is doing extremely well. I know it took us a little bit to get to this point this morning where we're recording this podcast, which I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to.
Yeah, I feel like working from home is amazing. Wouldn't have it any other way. And sometimes it feels like half of my day's gone at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I get up super early to make sure I have time for myself, get the kids up, get them ready out the door to school. Chris and I usually get to the gym every day, whether it's together or not. And then by the time I get home and shower and sit down, I'm like, phew, I have to totally regroup. So it just feels good to be at my desk and recording with you, babe.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like a day before you actually get started with your day.
Yeah. I swear to God, we're ready
Right.
for bed at like 7 o'clock at night. But our kids are a little older now. They're like teenagers and preteens. So they're not ready for bed till like 10 o'clock. We're just like waiting for them to go to bed so we can pass
Yeah,
out.
it's definitely nonstop action.
Yeah. Wouldn't have it
But
any other way though.
no, absolutely not. And so it's really great to be here today. We're excited to be in front of all of you. Today's topic is going to be probably the most important topic that we could ever talk about, right, Erin?
I think so. I mean, it's how to find your purpose. And that
Yeah.
is our brand and that is our passion and our mission is helping people, young adults of all walks of life and ages find their purpose and discover that, connect with it. I think this is a great way for us to be kicking off our podcast is talking about exactly why we're so passionate about that.
I think that's true. And I want everybody to know that, a big reason that we're doing this podcast and a big reason that we're here today, we got through that crazy morning that we just talked about.
I have a little co-host here with our bunny next to me.
That's right.
So we got a bunny a month ago for my daughter, and she's 12 and she started a new school and she's a volleyball player. And so a month in of all the excitement wearing off, Chris and I are completely responsible for this bunny. And she's here in the living room where I record a lot of my videos and this podcast. And we had to move her cage and it was a whole thing.
So it's been a busy day so far.
It has.
But back to purpose, because purpose is a big reason as to why we all get up in the morning and what makes a lot of those challenges worthwhile. And whether it's a bunny or getting your kids off to school or a lot of that craziness or a lot of your other challenges, purpose is what gets you through it. It's that extra gear, it's that direction, it's that excitement of knowing that every step that you take is for a very specific reason.
Yeah. And so I think a great place to start on this topic is getting some clarity on what is purpose, right? So there is a lot of, that word can get thrown around a lot these days. There's purpose coaches and there's purpose books on purpose. And so it can get kind of just like the word goals or motivation. Some of these terms can get lost when we talk about them all the time and so lightheartedly. And purpose really is, a deeper meaning for why we're here. So it's your values, it's your strengths, it's your passions. When you discover and connect with your purpose, that's what really puts you into that flow state where you feel like you could do that thing forever and never get tired of it. I mean, maybe you get tired of it sometimes, but you persevere. Passion for a person, right? Is that person that you could just be with all the time. I feel like that with Chris. We work together, we raise kids together, we run a home, we run a business. We get on each other's nerves sometimes, but overall, I have so much passion and love for him. I could do business and life with him all day long, 24/7. And so it's that kind of feeling that you have. Your passion and your purpose will inspire you and expand you to grow and keep learning and moving forward. And ultimately, your purpose, you know that you found your purpose when it's that thing that pulls you through the really tough times in your life, the dark times. I'm going to share here in a little bit about my story. I think Chris is going to share a little bit about his too and how that worked for both of us. But that's kind of my take on purpose. It's all of those empowering, inspiring words and feelings is how you know you found your purpose.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great kickoff to this conversation. And I think the really interesting thing, Erin, about purpose is that it's individual to each and every one of us.
Mhm.
And in some ways, and I think, we're going to get into a little bit of the how a little bit further into this conversation, but in a lot of ways, it's a feeling,
Yeah.
and I know I that resonates with me even just saying that out loud, is that when you're in alignment with your purpose, you just feel different.
Hmm.
And it's an amazing feeling. And that feeling is something that I think we spend a lot of our lives searching for.
Hmm.
But the really cool thing is that feeling, those parts of ourself that Aaron kind of already talked about, they are sprinkled throughout our lives,
Yeah.
different moments and experiences that we've had. And so I know that's what led me to my purpose. And I'm really
Hmm.
excited to have an opportunity to kind of go into that a little bit deeper today. But back to what I said about this being a very personal experience is that I know you and I, Aaron, we both probably couldn't have found our purpose had we not tapped the brakes and regrouped with ourselves a little bit to
Hmm.
connect with some of those really important things, those really
Yeah.
important parts of ourselves. And you mentioned some of them, your values, your passions, your strengths, your talents. I mean, those are words that we talk about a lot, but how often are you doing more than just talking?
Hmm.
You're actually thinking about them, you're connecting with them, you're exploring them, you're going deeper.
Yeah,
And then I think lastly, before we go a little bit further, Aaron, it's that I think your purpose is your why.
for sure.
And I think
Yeah.
that when you start talking about like, how do I get myself motivated every single day to get up and do some of that craziness we kicked off the conversation today with, it's
Hmm.
really understand like, what's the reason we're doing this all in the first place? Why is this worthwhile? Why is this meaningful to me? And so when
Yeah.
you're dealing with a bunny, you're dealing with kids flying all over the place, you're getting kids off to school like we did this morning, like we do every day. That can be extremely stressful.
I think something you said is, you always get back to what's meaningful to you. And I know what pulls me through sometimes, because believe me, just because you find your purpose and you're living out your purpose, like Chris and I get to do every day in our coaching business and working with young adults, and I work with women, and we love what we do. It doesn't mean that we don't have days when we do not feel like showing up and recording this podcast or a video or coaching somebody,
Yeah,
because life
right.
gets hectic.
Yeah.
But it's the contribution as well. We know that we're contributing something great to other people, and we're able to contribute our passion and our life experiences. And that to us is like everything. And so that's another piece of that is once you really connect with what's important to you, chances are it's something because it's your strengths. It's like, whether you believe in God or Jesus or Buddha or the universe, whatever it is for you, it's that higher power instilled something great in you. And that's why Chris and I, created our brand Extraordinary Purpose, because we truly believe that everybody is born with something great. And so circling back around, chances are once you connect with that, it's something you're going to contribute to the world in some form or another. And that is the real blessing in it. I'll just share a little bit about my background and my story and how I kind of discovered my purpose in hopes that maybe you can take some of this and think back on your own life a little bit. I started a modeling career when I was a teenager. And unlike all my friends who were going off to college and stuff, I moved to New York City instead. And I was very fortunate to just have a lot of people interested in me. I had a lot of great agencies. I got to live in New York. I got to travel around the world and work, but it was hectic. It's a very intense industry. It's very aggressive. And, you know, nobody really looks out for a young girl in that industry, and you certainly don't know how to look out for yourself. So for me, I hit a little bit of a brick wall, and I had to regroup and slow down and tap the brakes, exactly what Chris said. So I did. I slowed down. I pulled myself out of those environments and didn't know consciously what I was doing at the time, right? I was at that time probably 24 or 25, but I got myself in a new environment and I got myself into new relationships and friendships, and I left behind things that weren't working for me anymore. And this was all on my own, but very quickly, because I signaled sort of to the universe that I was ready for change, I was ready to open myself up to a new path in my life. I was so fortunate to have so many mentors that just kind of like came into my life. I'm half Native American, so I got back to my Native American roots and started learning about our traditions and ceremonies. I met this Native American counselor that I started seeing once a week, and he was, teaching me so much about my culture. I found Buddhism and a meditation teacher, and I started finding all these books and resources. In a nutshell, my whole life just kind of opened up to me, and I found myself on this spiritual path. And it was probably like maybe a year later, after all of this started like unfolding for me, I asked myself one day, like, why did all this happen for me? And I even asked myself like that. And I recognized that I had gone through some really interesting sort of dark nights of the soul at a pretty young age, and then found myself on this path because I was meant to share it with other people. I always thought my purpose was modeling or entertaining or acting. And little did I know that was just a catalyst to get me to my real purpose, which is to do what I'm doing today, which is empowering and inspiring people and sharing my own life experiences. And so once I recognized that that's what I wanted to do, it went in a lot of different directions, which is what your purpose will do for you. I went to school and studied psychology, and I studied my Haudenosaunee culture, the spiritual and political history. I started writing more, recognized I was a great writer, started really doing stuff with my poetry. So, eventually I found coaching. And let me tell you, when you find your purpose, that does not mean that life is all roses after that, right, Chris? You're
That's
still
right.
going to go through more dark nights of the soul. You're going to make choices that aren't in alignment with your purpose because we're human. So we're going to make bad choices. I chose the wrong relationship. I chose and made a lot of bad decisions after I found my purpose. But you know what? Without making those choices and those decisions, I wouldn't have kept growing and learning. So it's like we have to have that polarity. You're not always going to make the right choices just because you find your purpose. But what I want to say, one last thing, is that how I've known it's been my purpose all along is that it's never left me. And that path that I found myself on in my mid 20s is still my journey today. And no matter how hard or dark things got for me over the last 20 years of my life, that has always pulled me through. So my dedication to my personal growth, meditation, and knowing that I have this bigger mission to really inspire, empower other people to keep growing and learning and finding their purpose, that's what has kept me going. And so that's how you know. And so maybe it's not as profound for everybody, right? And maybe you can't look back and think of that one moment where everything opened up in your life. But I think what you can find is you can start to connect the dots a little bit, and you can start to recognize, where one thing might have led to another, and you met that person and that led to this opportunity. And so that's a lot of what we do when we work with young adults. And when I work with women, is helping people go back and recognize those times in their life.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I've obviously heard that before, but I think it's really powerful to hear the story kind of from start to finish. There's a lot of takeaways that we hope we all got from Erin sharing that. My two biggest takeaways are number one, that your purpose sets you on a journey. Okay.
Mm,
So it's not like this destination, but the journey is a remarkable one because, yeah, it has ups and downs and lefts and rights and twists and
yeah.
turns. It's not perfect, but it's your direction, which means that you always have this feeling that you're moving forward, that you're learning and growing and getting better. And so every single failed relationship or experience that you have along the way is teaching
Yeah.
you something more about yourself. Because the really powerful thing that comes from knowing your purpose is that it creates, Erin, you mentioned the environment. And
Yeah.
I think that something that both you and I have both recognized is the importance that putting yourself in the right environments, around the right people. You mentioned mentors and friends that kind of guided you along the way, right?
Yeah.
Without those are the people that keep you on the right path, that remind you of who you are and what you're capable of. And without that environment, it's really difficult sometimes to do this type of work that we're talking about, finding your purpose.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a little bit about my story too, but I think a lot of the reason that we're so passionate about helping younger people find their purpose is because it's going to set them on the right path a little bit earlier in their life. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that their life is going to be perfect, but it means that they're going to be able to make some of those really important choices. Choices that, by the way, now getting into my story, I wasn't so confident to make either. Coming out of high school, I knew a little bit about myself, but I played it safe. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I played it safe. I got into a business program at a school, a local community college. I was a little too afraid to go out on my own at that stage in my life. That's a regret that I have. But I played it very, very safe. I studied business. And yet, every class, every step of the way throughout college, I knew better. There was this voice inside of me that was saying, Chris, you're more than this. You're different than this. You're more creative than this. You're supposed to be doing something to make a difference, inspiring people, motivating people. Going back to high school for me, the signals and signs were everywhere. I was in a play or two. I loved it more than anything. Any opportunity, Erin, that I had to get in front of the class and do a speech or speak on a topic, that's when I came to life.
Hmm.
That's when I shone, you
And you
know,
still do.
and I still do. And I've learned since then to lean into those things and follow those things so much more powerfully and so much more confidently. But back then, I was just doing them. And I
Yeah.
wasn't checking in with myself and really noticing, like, what does that really mean? How do I put some of those different signals and signs and parts of myself together to make some of those decisions about where to go to college? I didn't do that. And so
Yeah.
so I went through college. I ended up switching to a marketing degree. So I did start to listen to that voice inside of me because marketing, for those of you who know that world, it's a lot more creative. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do something more creative. I wanted to reach an audience. And for me, I think the safe compromise without going to LA and becoming an actor or doing something bigger on stage was marketing. And so I got into marketing and I had a very successful career in marketing for about 15 years. And as I was in marketing, I had the privilege of working with a lot of young people, either as interns or right out of college. And I was always in the lucky position to recruit, hire, and train these young people. And I learned very early on in my career that that's the part of the job that I absolutely loved. I loved
Yeah.
working with these people. I loved identifying someone's talent, someone's potential, and then working with them to do something with that, to bring it to life, to nurture it, to help them go on to bigger and better things. And whether that was with our company or in most cases, it was outside of our company because your purpose becomes your purpose. And the choices that you make are not always going to be within the current environment that you're in. They're going to be
Yeah.
whatever next environment is going to make the most sense for you to continue your learning and your growth. And so
Yeah.
my career, I reached a ceiling though. Like in terms of the business side of it, working with clients and working in branding and marketing, I had done everything that I could do. It stopped being fun, and I was spending way too much time doing the things that I didn't love, that I didn't enjoy. And I wasn't doing enough of the mentoring and the managing and the leading. Those were the things that I just wanted to do full time. And
Yeah.
so 15 years into my corporate career in marketing, I tapped the brakes. I regrouped with myself. I took about 6 months where I said, you know what? I'm going to spend that 6 months on myself and I'm going to explore some of my passions, really get clear on who I am and what I'm all about and what I want to do next. And long story short, probably longer because that was kind of a long story too, but here we are. Erin and I are here because we had to follow that journey to really bring everything together, to step into our potential and follow our purpose.
For those of you listening, if you're like listening to these stories that Chris and I are telling, and you kind of are starting to, maybe you're just now recognizing like, wow, yeah, I did have this, and I did used to love to do this, and I ignored that voice too, or I had these opportunities and I didn't take advantage of them the way I wish I would have. Or maybe you've known that for a while. Maybe it isn't something new you're just, connecting with now, but there can be a lot of regret. I wish I had done things differently. And especially like as we get older and our kids start to get older, we start, I know I'm going through kind of this midlife thing right now where Chris jokes, he's like, all right, what do you think? It's all over. I'm like, yeah, it's all downhill from here. It's not. I know that everything in a lot of ways is just beginning. And so if you're listening to this and you're recognizing that and you're feeling, it's so easy to feel down on ourselves. Just know, it's so cliche, but it's never too late. Yes, maybe you're not going to do what you wanted to do when you were 18, 19, 20 years old, but in some way or another, you can still take that purpose that you feel, those passions, those values, those strengths that maybe you fell out of touch with for a long time, and that's really what brought Chris and I to creating our Extraordinary Purpose for Young Adults program. Is we were working with a lot of people around midlife, maybe a little prior to midlife, who would come to us and have a lot of regrets. They didn't choose, they got married to somebody because they just thought it was the next right thing to do, or they chose a career path because their parents told them they should when they were 18, 19 years old. And they woke up one day in their 30s or 40s or 50s and said, what is this? This is not my purpose. This is not my life. I'm not passionate about any of this. I don't even like this person I wake up to every day, or I do not like this job I have to walk into every day. And so we were helping people like unravel all of this and recreate something authentic and purposeful. So between us having 4 kids, so Chris and I have 2 teenage sons and then 2 preteens. I have a daughter and he has another son, William. And we just recognized between these guys getting older and recognizing these people we were coaching much later in life, we were like, why aren't we giving this to young people to help them start discovering who they really are and what they're purposeful about and what's important to them and all of that good stuff.
And
Yeah.
I think that the real powerful thing about knowing your purpose, and this goes for parents first and foremost, because I think a lot of parents are probably tuning into this podcast,
Yeah.
is that it's never too late to find your purpose.
Mm-mm.
And so you're right, Erin. We talk to so many people middle aged, 40s and 50s and 60s, sometimes even
Mm-hmm.
older, who
Yeah.
said, you know what, man, I wish I would have done this 20 or 30 years ago. I wish I would have known these things about myself so long ago. And yeah, sure, that would have been amazing. And that is part of the reason why we coach so many teens and young adults now, because we want to get to people young so that they can start to learn so much more about themselves and see themselves for who they truly are, especially in an age where there's so much distraction, there's so much technology, there's so many things that are pulling us away from what's important.
Yeah.
This type of work can make such a profound difference. But I will also say that to do this work, I think we've learned, Erin, that it's not hard to get started. And I
No,
think no, and I think that from our perspective, the most important requirement, and Erin, tell me if I'm wrong, is probably just
I
creating
will.
creating that, I know you will, is creating for yourself. And if this is for a teen or young adult, finding the right environment for you to be able to get yourself into a space where you can connect with these different parts of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Because, thinking back on my story again, like had I not slowed down, had I not
Right.
invested myself in mentorship and the
Yeah.
books I needed to read and learning, I was just so hungry to learn so much. Had I not done all of that, I would not have connected as deeply as I did at that time in my life. And so it's not hard to do. It's not hard to start to get that process started. It can be challenging to slow down.
Yeah.
And so that's for a whole other podcast, which we'll
It
get
will be.
to, which is
It will be.
distractions and learning how to slow down and disconnect from this outside world and learn how to go within here a little bit more. But that's really where it begins. I think the key word here attached to purpose is environment, getting yourself in the right environment. And, that's maybe you're wondering, well, what does that mean? A ritual we teach our clients is how to get into a sacred space. So every day, how to find a space, whether it's in your bedroom or maybe your office for parents listening. I mean, it could be your car if like you literally have no privacy anywhere else, but a space where you can it's quiet and you can turn on some music and slow down and connect with your inner world a little bit. That's really all it takes to start connecting more with your purpose and understanding more about yourself and what's important to you.
Yeah. And I think I had mentioned, or we had mentioned earlier about that feeling is
Yeah.
that only when you create that sacred space for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
Erin and I, we both have those sacred spaces. We have those environments that we go to or get ourselves into so that we can connect with ourselves. We
Yeah.
can remember who we are, see ourselves for who we truly are. I'm sure everybody can relate, but when you are going through your day and you're stressed and you're anxious and you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with family, you're dealing with work, you're dealing with
Mm.
life,
It's a
those
lot.
are probably the times when you're not connected to yourself. You're distracted by all
Yeah.
of those things. And you're right, Erin, that's going to be a whole separate podcast. But
Yeah.
like we always say, like the first thing is to notice all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And even to back that up even further, the first really important ingredient is to think about, where is a place where I can go so that I can get started on my journey? I loved what Chris and Aaron just talked about. I want to find my purpose. I can really see the difference that finding my purpose can make in my life.
Mm.
Or if this is about your family or your children, the difference that either me finding my purpose could make towards me becoming a better parent, or
Mm-hmm.
our entire family working together to find our individual purposes. Wow. That could be a
Yeah.
really incredible experience, but it starts with really thinking about, like, just look around. Like, where is a space where I feel alive? Where is a space where I can feel grounded and mindful? And maybe most importantly, and I've been using this word a lot in coaching, is becoming more present.
Yeah.
Because when you're present, that's when you have the ability to do this connection, to really see yourself for who you truly are.
Something Chris and I do together and I do on my own a lot is go to our favorite forest and get
Right.
out for a walk. And we have had the most incredible breakthroughs for our business. And I've had great breakthroughs individually, just as a parent and a woman in the world and things that I've had to overcome. So getting out in nature is a great way. Starting, some morning meditation in the morning, some journaling. Those are just a few ideas in getting into that sacred space, even if it's just for 10 minutes every day to shut everything out, put your phones away, and just connect with yourself. And that's really how you get started, starting to hear that inner voice. And for me, that's what it was back then in my 20s. It was I had this loudest voice in me telling me I was not in the right environment. I was not putting
Hmm.
myself around the right people. I had something I was supposed to do in this world. And for me, it was really loud then. And as we get older and we pile on life, it's probably pretty quiet right now. So you really need to create that space to listen. But that voice is in there, and that's your purpose. And that
Yeah.
feeling is in there that Chris talked about, and that's your purpose.
Yeah.
So we really encourage you this week to get out there, wherever that is, or get in here, but find a space in your life and environment that lights you up, that connects you to your inner self, because you can start modeling this as a parent. You have so much power and influence over your family. So start modeling this for yourself and for your kids. I promise you're going to start finding some great stuff there.
And I think, Erin, let's wrap up today with a question that we always like to ask ourselves and everybody that we're speaking to, which is,
Mm,
why is that important, Erin,
yeah.
to do some of this work, to find that space, to go on this journey to discover who you really are and what your purpose is? Like, why is that important to me?
And that's something you can start pondering if you get that walk out in the forest, get out in nature, wherever you live. I know it's starting to see fall here in Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
Michigan, but wherever you are, just getting outside and connecting and ask yourself that question. And it can just start there. It's such a simple thing to ponder. Why is finding my purpose important to me? And why is it important to my family or the people around me or my community? And I love to journal. So I encourage you to jot those things down, whatever comes to you when you're in that space, when you come out of it, do a little journaling around that so you can hold on to those feelings and those thoughts.
Yeah. And everybody has an individual why
Yes.
and an individual journey. And that's a lot of
Yeah.
the reason why we're here and we're going to stay here with you along your journey. And we're really honored to be a part of your family and a part of your life and to support you hopefully every step of the way.
Yeah.
Because, our why is we want to make a difference in these parents' lives, these
Mm-hmm.
families' lives, because if we make a difference, we help people find their purpose and find out, discover who they really are and what their direction in life is. Wow, what type of difference can that make for them and
Yeah.
for everybody around them and maybe for the world? And that's
Yeah.
pretty powerful to start to think about.
It is. And I think also just to add on to that is, to show our own children what's possible,
Yeah.
that you can do what you set your mind to, that you can do hard things, that we can pull out of tough times and move forward. You can create a business from scratch. It's hard work, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And you can do what you love. You can, take what you love and create something out of it and actually add value to the world and make money doing it. It's all very possible. And so, yeah, and we could go on and on about our why. There's so much to this is something Chris and I talk about a lot. But yeah, get out there this week, find your space, find your why, and, make sure that you share in the comments. Let us know what your why is and what you discovered about your purpose this week.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here
Yeah.
with Erin and I today. This has been a lot of fun talking about such a fun and exciting and big topic. And we
Yeah.
can't wait to see everybody on our next episode.
Yeah. We'll see you next week, guys. Have
See
a
you
great
guys.
week.
Bye-bye.
We are so thankful for you and your beautiful family and hope you found something inside today's episode that brought you hope, inspiration, and most importantly, a path forward. If you're interested in evolving your relationship, giving your kids the most important gift of personal growth and development, or are a mom looking to reconnect with your confidence and become empowered in all areas of your life, then schedule a discovery call with us today. Our mission is to help as many families as possible find their purpose, and that starts with you. See you in the next episode, my friends. To schedule a discovery call with us today, visit myextraordinarypurpose.com/discovery. That's myextraordinarypurpose.com/discovery.